I saved a kid's life and got a nasty concussion for it. My girlfriend of 8 years came to see me at the hospital. Trying to lighten the mood, I pretended to have amnesia. Sorry, I joked. Who are you? She just stared at me for a second, her face blank. Then she said, completely deadpan, we knew each other in college. I blinked. We knew each other in college? I searched Jessica's face, waiting for some sign she was joking, but nothing. She was serious. Calm, way too calm. I forced a tight smile, the words "just kidding" stuck in my throat. We knew each other in college. Not even friends. It hit me then, if the doctor hadn't called her, she probably wouldn't have shown up at all. But I didn't call her out. I just played it cool, letting that smile hang on my face. Hard to keep it up though, watching her stare at her phone the whole time. Thumbs moving fast. My smile started to fade. Hey, if you're busy, you don't have to. I actually am really busy. She cut me off before I could finish, grabbed her purse from the chair. Since you're okay, I'm going to head out. Maybe a tiny part of her still cared, because as she pulled the door open, she glanced back. Get some rest. I gave her a polite nod, the faint smile still plastered on my face. But the second the door clicked shut, it vanished. Jess and I had been together for 8 years, since freshman year. Nobody at Apex Solutions, where we both worked, had a clue. At first, we kept it quiet because we thought an office romance would be complicated. Later, when we both got promoted to director, each running our own teams, competing for the same bonuses, it felt even harder to go public. Not that the company had a rule against it. I'd brought it up a few times, asking when we could finally tell people, but she always laughed it off and changed the subject. For a while now, I'd suspected our relationship was basically over in every way that mattered. Now I knew for sure. The doctor had told her I was fine, just a mild concussion. So when my story didn't match the diagnosis, she didn't question it. She didn't seem worried. She just calmly downgraded me to a college acquaintance. Truth is, she didn't care if I had amnesia or not. Or maybe, more accurately, she used it as an opening to make her position clear. After all, if we were broken up, she'd be free to be with Caleb. I wasn't blind. I'd seen the change in her for months. 8 years is a long time. Over 2,900 days and nights. We knew each other inside and out. Every little habit, every tell. We were like two halves of the same person. So when she started acting differently, I noticed right away. It started when Caleb Reed, the new guy, was assigned to her team. Handsome, smooth, and the son of our chairman, Eleanor Vance. His mother's name was right there on his HR paperwork. At first, Jess was defensive. She explained she was only helping him out because he was a recent grad and, the chairman's son. Don't worry, she told me, laughing. He's just a kid. Totally not my type. What she didn't mention was her kid was 3 years older than me. Then things got worse. I needed a video file for a project and didn't have my laptop, so I asked to borrow hers. But she'd changed the password. When I called for it, she hesitated before telling me. It was Caleb's birthday. I tried to tell myself it was a coincidence, but when the screen lit up, her wallpaper was different. It used to be a picture of me. Now it was a dimly lit cocktail bar, the focus on a man's hand holding a drink, his fingers forming a heart shape. I knew exactly whose hand that was. The scar on his knuckle was unmistakable. She used to be strict about that. We're never allowed to change wallpapers, she'd said, half joking, but dead serious. Yours is me and mine is you. 4 years, that was true. And she hated bars, called them loud and sleazy. A few minutes after I logged in, she called. Her voice was just a little too bright. Leo, hey, about the wallpaper. One of my team members was messing with my laptop and changed it as a joke. Don't read anything into it. I said I believed her, but after that day, she never let me use her laptop again. I have no idea if she ever changed it back. Then there were the little cuts, one after another. Like the celebration dinner when her team landed a huge account. I was slammed with another project and couldn't make it. I didn't even have time to eat, but I called her the second I got a break, wanting to congratulate her. I'd even arranged a surprise. She didn't answer. I sent a text. No reply. Later that night, I saw her post on Instagram. Beaming, holding a huge bouquet of red roses. The flowers I had sent were tulips. Her favorite. A few minutes later, Caleb posted his own picture. Same bouquet of roses. Grinning like an idiot. Same background, same pose. It looked like a coordinated relationship announcement. Under his post, Jess had commented, "Don't forget dinner." I can't even remember what I felt in that moment. Just that the next day, I found the tulips I sent her stuffed in the trash outside our building. On her desk, in a crystal vase, sat the roses. She used to say she hated roses. Called them tacky. Turns out people change. Or maybe they just become tacky. I spent 2 days in the hospital. After a final checkup confirmed I was fine, they discharged me. In those 2 days, Jess never called, never texted. Not one message asking how I was or when I was getting out. But when I was packing my things, I saw it sitting on the chair. A slice of my favorite cheesecake from that little bakery downtown. Okay, I thought. Maybe I'll give her one more chance. I set the cake aside and called her, keeping my voice gentle. "Hey Jess, I'm getting out today. Any chance you could pick me up?" We both silently agreed not to mention the amnesia thing. The line was quiet for a long time. Finally she said, "Things are a little crazy at work right now. Could you just get a ride back yourself?" It was my turn to go silent. "I can call an Uber for you," she offered. "How busy are you?" I asked sharper than I meant. My tone caught her off guard. I was never sarcastic with her. And I knew the company was in a lull between projects. No one was crazy busy. I could hear faint music and the chatter of a crowd in the background. She didn't answer, probably trying to think of what to say. I didn't wait. I hung up and let out a short, bitter laugh. It's obvious when someone loves you. And even more obvious when they don't. I remembered one summer in college, when I was working out of state and came down with a brutal fever. I was so out of it, all I could do was call Jess before passing out. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed. She was asleep in the chair next to me, looking exhausted, her eyes red. She told me she'd heard it in my voice, that something was wrong. So she drove all night from another state to get to me. She hadn't even changed out of her pajamas and slippers. "Leo, you have no idea how scared I was," she sobbed into my chest. "I was banging on your door and you weren't answering. When I finally got in and saw you, I thought I was going to lose my mind." She buried her face in my shirt. My hospital gown was soaked with her tears. Back then, she cared so much. Now, that girl was just a memory. My face was a mask of indifference as I picked up the cheesecake and dropped it into the trash can. Just as I let it go, a soft voice behind me asked, "You don't like it?" I turned, confused. A young woman, probably a teenager, with wide, worried eyes, stood in front of me. She explained quickly, "I'm the girl you saved. My classes just ended, so I'm sorry it took me so long to come see you. I heard you were being discharged today, so I brought you a little something. If you don't like it, I can get you something else. Whatever you need, I'll do my best to help." So the cake wasn't from Jess after all. I apologized to the girl, explaining the misunderstanding. Inside, I was laughing at my own stupidity. This was it. Jess and I were really, truly over. I saw her as soon as I got to our apartment building. She was standing by the entrance, dressed in a tight leather jacket and ripped designer jeans. Her face painted with heavy smoky makeup she always used to hate. She was staring down at her phone, a bright, happy smile spreading across her face as she texted someone. I realized I hadn't seen her smile like that, genuine, unguarded, in a very long time. I just stood there watching her. She was so absorbed in her phone that she walked right past me without even a glance. She went inside ahead of me, and I followed a few feet behind. We rode the elevator in silence until the doors opened on our floor. Then, in a perfectly normal voice, I said her name. She looked up, startled, a flash of surprise in her eyes. "You back from the hospital?" She instinctively shoved her phone into her purse. as if hiding evidence. The gesture was so transparent it was almost funny. "We need to break up, Jess." I never thought I could say those words so calmly. She looked stunned for only a second before her face smoothed over. "I'm sorry," she said. Sorry didn't mean anything to me anymore. I walked past her into the apartment we had rented together and started packing my things. She could have the place. I was done. I moved with a quiet efficiency that seemed to unnerve her. She watched me, her gaze sharp, analytical. "You don't seem very broken up about this, Leo." Of course, she wanted a scene. She wanted me to yell, to plead, to beg her to stay. Even though she was the one who cheated, the one who wanted out, she couldn't stand the sight of me being okay with it. She needed me to be the pathetic, heartbroken puppy. I zipped up my suitcase and gave the room one last look. I didn't say anything. 8 years. Of course, I was heartbroken. But the worst of it had already happened. Spread out over months of slow, painful moments. It happened when she ignored my calls to comment on his Instagram. It happened when she threw away the tulips I sent her. It happened when she changed her password to his birthday. It happened when she looked me in the eye and told me we were just classmates. It happened when she was out having a good time with someone else while her supposed boyfriend was being discharged from the hospital. All the grief and pain had already been spent. What was left was hollow disappointment, quickly fading into calm acceptance. There was nothing to feel sorry for. She had changed. We both knew we could never go back to the way things were. It was better to just let go than keep poisoning each other. We were adults. At the very least, we could give each other a clean break. But as I walked out the door, I turned back and asked one last question. "I just want to know one thing, Jess. Did you fall for Caleb, the person? Or did you fall for Caleb, Eleanor Vance's son?" She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, her eyes glinting with a shrewdness I'd never seen before. The innocent girl I'd fallen in love with was long gone, replaced by a woman who knew exactly what she wanted. "Leo, we're not kids anymore," she said coolly. "You know how it works. Everyone's trying to get ahead." At least she was honest. I let out a small, dry laugh. "Well, I hope you get everything you want. Good luck." As I stepped into the elevator, I saw her leaning against the doorframe, a flicker of something. Maybe regret, in her eyes. But it was fleeting, quickly replaced by resolve. "Don't hate me for this," she said quietly. "There's nothing to hate," I replied as the doors slid shut. "We're adults. We make our own choices. We're just on different paths now." After the breakup, I was doing okay. The only problem was seeing her every day at the same company. There was no way to make a clean break, no real chance to move on. But a job was a job. I was heading into the office building when I saw them, Jess and Caleb, laughing with a few coworkers, coffee cups in hand. Caleb was telling some story, and Jess was looking up at him, her eyes soft, full of affection. Every now and then she'd touch his arm. They looked good together, the perfect power couple. She looked genuinely happy. I waited for them to get on the elevator before I went in. I'd barely set my bag down when my coworker Kevin practically tackled me. "Leo, my man, you're back. We were going to organize a search party to come see you at the hospital." "What? You're disappointed my injuries weren't more serious?" I shot back, clapping him on the shoulder. "No way, dude. We all heard you were a hero." Yeah. How's the Wallace account coming along?" He gave me a sheepish grin. "It's coming." Which meant it wasn't. I was about to give him a hard time when he leaned in conspiratorially. "Hey, I got some news for you about your future." I raised an eyebrow. "You know how Chris Wong, the senior manager, is getting transferred to the West Coast office? His spot's opening up." He grinned. "Dude, that job has your name all over it." Before I could respond, our teammate Mike stormed over, his face flushed with anger. "Or it's going to Jessica," he spat. I wasn't surprised. For the past year, our performance numbers had been neck and neck. If she got it on merit, that would be one thing, Mike continued, fuming. But she's not playing fair. I've seen her all over that new guy, Caleb. They're super cozy, you know. Everyone knew Caleb was rumored to be the chairman's son. Mike was furious on my behalf, assuming Jess was using Caleb to climb the ladder. I looked down, a bitter smile touching my lips. So that's what she was so busy with while I was in the hospital. Cozying up to Caleb. Of course. It all made perfect sense. She'd changed, and this was just who she was now. I masked the cynicism in my eyes and forced a calm smile for my team. Hey, it's fine. Nothing's decided until it's decided. As they started to walk away, I called out to Kevin. Hey, can you send me the file on the Wallace account? I want to take a look. You got it, boss. I had just sat down and powered on my laptop when there was a knock on my office door. It was Jessica. I was surprised to see her. We might have had a civil breakup, but that didn't mean I was ready to pretend nothing happened and make small talk. I figured we'd only speak if it was absolutely necessary for work. Apparently, this was necessary for her. She stood in front of my desk, her eyes scanning my face before she spoke. I thought you would have quit. Her voice was soft, almost as if she was offering sincere advice. Leo, we were together for a long time. I was always honest with you about my ambition. Chris Wong is leaving next week. You and I are the top contenders for his position. I'm here to suggest you start looking for a way out. Find another opportunity for yourself. I stared at her perfectly composed face, silent for a long moment. I knew exactly what she was doing. She was so sure she had the promotion in the bag that she was trying to push me out of the company. She knew that if she got the job and was openly dating the chairman's son, having her ex-boyfriend working just down the hall would be a constant source of office gossip. She told me it was for my own good, but it was really all about her. About avoiding awkwardness and whispers in the break room. Unbelievably hypocritical. She could chase her ambition. She could break my heart. That happens. But to be this selfish, this completely devoid of decency. I looked straight at her, my voice cold and flat. Meeting you was the single biggest mistake of my life. For the first time, she was speechless. Right after that conversation, Jessica and Caleb made their office romance official. When she was with me, she was always hesitant, always saying going public was a bad idea. Now, not only was she public with Caleb, she was plastering their relationship all over her social media. Posting couple selfies, tagging him, everything. I guess it wasn't a bad idea after all. I just wasn't the chairman's son. The first time Caleb and I actually spoke was after their big announcement. It was during lunch. Most people were out, and the office was quiet. I was heading to the break room to wash out my food container when he stepped right in front of me. I tried to walk around him, but he moved to block my path. I know you're Jessica's ex, he said out of nowhere. His eyes sized me up. He was tall, but I was taller. I saw a flicker of disappointment cross his face, probably because I wasn't showing any of the anger or jealousy he'd been hoping for. He paused, then continued. I saw your picture on her laptop wallpaper. Anyone paying attention could have figured it out, he said. And I asked, raising an eyebrow. My mother. She's very impressed with Jess. Says Jess reminds her of herself when she was young. That same drive, that refusal to quit. He gave me this smug little smile. My mom wants to mentor her. And it just so happens Jess and I have feelings for each other. So we're making it official. Just so happens, right? Leo, I'm telling you this as a courtesy. Don't make things difficult for yourself. Be smart and just quit. So that was his goal. He actually thought he could intimidate me into leaving. It was so naive it was almost funny. My expression softened into a smirk. You think a little speech from you is going to make me quit? I asked. Or what, are you going to fire me? The first option's a non-starter. As for the second, you're welcome to go talk to HR. The company has a process for terminations, and I'm sure they'd be happy to walk you through it. I leaned in just a little closer. Besides, Mr. Reed, you're an intern. You don't have the authority to fire a director. Instead of wasting time with these fantasies, maybe you should get back to work. Who knows? Someday, if you really apply yourself, you might actually be in a position to compete with me. His face turned an ugly shade of red. I walked around him and went to wash my container. When I got back to my office, there was an email from the chairman's assistant. An invitation to a company dinner that night, to say farewell to Chris Hong. A farewell dinner, sure, but everyone knew what it really was. The company's next big move would be decided there. Before I left for the dinner, Mike and Kevin stopped by my office. They both looked dejected, though they were trying their best to cheer me up. "Leo, no matter what happens tonight, you'll always be the man," Mike said. Everyone knew the dinner was for senior management only, and that a big promotion was on the line. "Yeah, dude," Kevin added. "If you decide to leave and start your own thing, we're coming with you." I laughed, trying to lighten the mood. "Why so pessimistic? Don't worry about it. Things have a way of working out." That evening, all the department heads gathered at a high-end steakhouse downtown. Caleb was there, sitting right next to Eleanor Vance. And next to Caleb, beaming, sat Jessica. Everyone in the room was a pro, making conversation, laughing, but their eyes kept darting toward Eleanor and Caleb, that unspoken assumption hanging in the air, mother and son. I sat off in a corner by myself, which was fine. I didn't care to listen to their fake pleasantries anyway. I just ate my steak and drank my wine. As expected, no one mentioned work. It was all toasts and well wishes for Chris Wong, congratulating him on his promotion. Finally, as the dinner was winding down, the chairman, Eleanor Vance, cleared her throat to get everyone's attention. Nearly 60, but looking 45, impeccably dressed, sharp, intelligent eyes that missed nothing. She smiled warmly at the room. "There's one more thing I'd like to share with you all tonight," she began. "I've been thinking about the right time to say this, and tonight feels perfect." I put down my wine glass and glanced over at Jessica. Her back was ramrod straight, posture radiating confidence. She looked like a queen sitting next to Caleb, a faint, triumphant smile on her lips. They made a handsome couple. My gaze shifted back to Eleanor. "As many of you know, I have a son," she said. "He's always wanted to make his own way without anyone knowing our relationship. So, for years, I respected his privacy and never mentioned him. But I think it's time that changed." Her voice filled with pride. "He joined our company several years ago, insisting on starting from the very bottom. His work ethic and talent speak for themselves. Many of you in this room have recommended him to me for promotions, not knowing who he was. As a mother, that has made me incredibly proud. So tonight, while we're all here celebrating, I'd like to finally introduce him to you." A smile played on her lips as her eyes scanned the room, passing over everyone until they landed directly on me. Her voice was warm, gentle. "Leo Vance, come on up here." She winked. "Honestly, this kid always picks the seat farthest away from his mother." Her playful words landed like a bombshell. The entire room went silent. Every head turned, first to Caleb with a new pitying confusion, and then to me. But the most dramatic reaction came from Jessica. The smug smile on her face froze, then crumbled. Her perfect posture slumped. Her eyes locked on me, wide with a mix of shock, disbelief, and dawning humiliating horror. I ignored her. Calmly, I stood up and walked toward the head of the table. I stopped right next to Caleb. My voice was level, but I put just a little too much emphasis on his last name. "Reed, excuse me. Could you move over?" The silence in the room grew heavier. Someone gasped. The gossip was going to rip through the office like wildfire tomorrow. I was curious to see what Jessica would do. She'd said it herself. People strive to get ahead. I wondered how high up she felt now. I didn't spare her another glance. After the dinner ended, she and a pale-faced Caleb came over to say good night to my mother. Her voice was tight, laced with anger she could barely contain. My mom just smiled and wished them well. When they were gone, she got into the car with me, her smile fading. She looked at me. "So you two broke up?" She knew about Jessica. I'd mentioned her back when I first started at the company, and she was smart enough to put the pieces together over the years. I stared out the window at the city lights rushing past. "You saw her with Caleb, didn't you?" He and his father have a thing for other people's women, don't they? My voice was flat, devoid of emotion, but the words were sharp. My mother. I hadn't called Eleanor Vance mother in a long time. Not since she and my dad divorced. I was young then and didn't understand why they split. But as I got older, the picture became clearer. Caleb's father had been my mother's high school sweetheart. They were inseparable, until he found out her family wasn't wealthy. He decided she wasn't good enough for him and dumped her to marry into money. My dad, who'd grown up with my mom and loved her for years, was there to pick up the pieces. They married, and together they built this company from the ground up. My mother had it all, a successful career, a loving family, but it was a facade. She's a proud woman, and she never got over the humiliation of being left for money. Hate, it turns out, is its own kind of love. It keeps you connected. Eventually, my parents divorced, and my mother reconnected with her old flame. They never married. She just supported them. She kept them around, paying their bills, and every now and then she'd see them. Just to remind Caleb's father of the poor girl he once tossed aside. Caleb's last name was originally Shao, but he and his dad were so desperate to please my mother that they both legally changed it to her maiden name, Reed. They were sycophants and they let their minor power go completely to their heads. They didn't know about me, but I knew all about them. One day, my mom brought them to our house behind my dad's back. I skipped school and came home early to find them all in the living room, laughing, watching TV, looking like a happy family. I was furious. I set up a little prank for Caleb that ended with him getting a serious burn on his hand. To this day, they have no idea it was me. That scar was how I recognized his hand in the picture on Jessica's laptop. All Jessica knew was that my parents were divorced and I lived with my dad. After I graduated from college, Eleanor offered me a job at her company. I may be getting older, but I'm not a fool, Leo, she told me. When it comes to the big decisions, I know what matters. This company is yours. She explained that Caleb's father had been begging her to give Caleb a job for years, but she always refused. I would never hand this company, our family's legacy, over to an outsider. I agreed to join, mostly for my dad. He had poured his life into this company. There was no way I was going to let some freeloader take it over. So I started at the bottom, right alongside Jessica. We worked our way up together. Eleanor only knew about Jess because I had told her. I had planned to give Jess a surprise the day my identity was revealed. I guess she got a surprise. All right, just not the one I had in mind. Eleanor's expression softened with regret. It's all my fault, she sighed. Her fault. Women are just ruthless when it comes to ambition. I turned away and thought about what Caleb had said, that my mother saw a younger version of herself in Jessica. Now that I thought about it, he was right. They both had terrible taste in men. The next day at work was different. Everyone knew who I was. They were warmer, more respectful. But it was the calculated friendliness of corporate veterans. Just enough to be noticed, but not enough to seem like they were sucking up. When Mike and Kevin found out, they both complained that I'd let them worry for nothing. I bought them both new gaming consoles and was immediately forgiven. You're the best boss. But Mike couldn't let it go. At lunch, he leaned in close. So if you're the prince, what does that make Caleb? I didn't hide it. I gave him the short version of the story. No way, he said, his eyes wide. He slapped his thigh. So he's a total fake. And he was strutting around here like he owned the place. What a jerk. He looked at me slyly. Hey, can you tell people about this? I really want everyone to know what a fraud he is. I shrugged. It's not a secret. Say whatever you want. It didn't even take an hour. By mid-afternoon, the entire company knew Caleb Reed was a phony. The next time I saw Caleb, I was walking past the finance department. The director was shoving a reimbursement form back at him. Company policy does not cover personal electronics, the director said, his voice dripping with annoyance. And next time, check your math. I'm nearsighted, not blind. Caleb's face was a mask of fury. He saw me as he walked out and shot me a look of pure hatred, obviously thinking I had orchestrated his humiliation. So childish. After my identity was revealed, I was moved into a senior strategy role. Jessica was still a director. Her promotion indefinitely on hold. It might have been my imagination, but it seemed like Jessica and Caleb were actively avoiding me. I didn't really care. They were irrelevant. But some people just can't let things go. I was in the break room washing my lunch container when Caleb appeared, blocking my way just like before. The only difference was that his previous arrogance had been replaced by a pathetic, impotent rage. "You're a hypocrite, Leo," he snarled. "A two-faced snake. Your dad said he didn't want anything from my mother. So what are you doing here? Trying to steal her company? You've got some nerve. My dad is a man of pride and principle. When they split, he walked away with nothing. But I'm not my father. What's mine is mine." I looked at his seething face, a smirk playing on my lips. "You've been mooching off my mother for years. And what do you have to show for it? A monthly allowance and not even a company car. Pathetic." I leaned in. "If you were smart, you'd go home and tell your dad to up his game. He needs to try a lot harder to keep my mother happy, because the first thing I'm going to do when I take over is cut you both off." Panic flickered in his eyes, but he tried to cover it with a sneer. "You're all talk." Then a slimy grin spread across his face as he played his last card. "Yeah, well, your girlfriend of 8 years still kicked you to the curb for me. So who's the real winner here? You're bragging about picking up my trash?" I said, not even bothering to look him in the eye. I had to admit, in a way, they were perfect for each other. Caleb saw Jessica as a tool. Talented, ambitious, and approved of by my mother. Jessica saw Caleb as a shortcut to the top. They deserved each other. I glanced at my watch, then back at his purple, sputtering face. I shoved past him. "I'm a busy man, and I don't have time for this nonsense. This is the last time you'll waste my time with your whining. If there's a next time, you'll be looking for a new job." Jessica quit. I guess no one could stay after a humiliation that public. She sent a text saying she wanted to see me one last time. I didn't understand why, so I just ignored it. She'd sent a similar message the night my identity was revealed, saying we needed to talk. I ignored that one too. This time, though, she was waiting for me outside the office building. She looked calm, composed. It was almost impressive how she could act like nothing had happened between us. "Can we get a coffee?" she asked, gesturing to the cafe across the street. I walked in with her, but didn't order anything. She bought me my old favorite anyway. I stared out the window at our office building. I remembered standing on this same spot with her right after graduation. She'd squeeze my hand, her eyes shining with excitement. "This is it, Leo. I'm going to make a name for myself here, and then I'll buy us a huge house, and we can get a bunch of dogs, and I'll take care of you. You can quit your job and just work on your passion projects." "So you want to be my sugar mama?" I joke. "Yes, I'll take care of you forever. How about that?" Back then, her world revolved around me. I remembered how her dreams were almost crushed when her first role at the company was basically sorting mail. She was disappointed but never gave up. "Don't worry," she'd tell me every night. "I'm going to give you a better life." She worked herself to the bone, learned to drink the cheap whiskey clients liked, and finally her hard work paid off. She landed a massive multi-million-dollar account. Her reward was a $1,000 bonus, and the credit for the deal went to her boss. That night it was pouring rain. She came home soaked and shivering with a fever, muttering in her sleep, "Why wasn't it my project?" My heart broke for her. That was the first time I mentioned Jessica's name to my mother. Eleanor didn't promise anything, but she started paying attention, publicly praising Jessica's work. The senior staff took the hint. After that, Jessica's career took off. But the higher she climbed, the further away from me she got. I was pulled from my thoughts by Jessica's voice, laced with a wistful, performative sadness. How did we end up like this? I laughed out loud. "I don't know, Jess. Maybe it was when you were having a busy day with Caleb. Or maybe it was when you changed your wallpaper to a picture of his hand." Leo, we're even now, she said, trying to sound reasonable. I lied to you and you lied to me. I couldn't believe the audacity. The only person who thinks we're even is you. I'm busy. I don't have time for this. I stood up to leave. Can't we even be friends? She asked, her voice rising with desperation. I paused and looked down at her. We were just people who knew each other in college, remember? Not friends. You said it yourself. Her hand, which was resting on her coffee cup, clenched. The calm facade finally cracked. Even so, she said through tight lips. I bought you this coffee. Aren't you going to at least try it? It's your favorite. No thanks, I said, turning away. People change. I don't drink coffee anymore. As I walked out the door, I heard the sharp crack of ceramic shattering against the floor. I didn't look back. After that day, I never saw her again. A few months later, I was having dinner with Eleanor when she mentioned that Caleb had gotten himself into trouble. He'd been scammed in some stupid scheme and was now facing a few years in prison. She also mentioned that he and Jessica had broken up. Not that I cared. Years passed. The next time I saw Jessica, it was at an industry gala. By then, I was the chairman of the company. The event was over and I was walking out to my car. I saw her standing near the entrance, waiting for the senior executives from other companies to emerge. She was handing out business cards, her smile a little too bright, her posture a little too eager. She had clearly started over somewhere else and was still hustling. As I walked past, our eyes met. Her face froze and I saw her eyes well up with tears. It meant nothing to me. The past was the past. The future was bright. And the only way forward was to stay focused and keep moving.